Hello everybody. Today everyone with a phone is a creator. Did you know that globally on an average more than 1500,000 new videos are uploaded to YouTube every minute? And this has effectively turned the tables around. The customer is now at the center of decision making, right from what products or services she wants to the kind of content she will consume. So how are brands thriving, or may I say coping with this content juggernaut, and how are they differentiating themselves? How are they cultivating their customers? How is the comms fraternity managing to put out thumb-stopping content each day, every day? Is there a mantra for this? To discuss, joining me are three exceptional brains who have pretty much cracked the content code. Sandipan, who's joining virtually, is the Managing Director and Chief Creative Officer, South Asia at Grey Group. With over 2 decades of experience in advertising and communications across leading agencies like BBDO, Saatchi & Saatchi, I feel Sandipan really has a pulse when it comes to communicating the customer value proposition. He has held prestigious jury positions, including at Cannes Lion. In fact, his voice made waves at Cannes when he questioned the ethics of public service advertising.
Thank you for having me here.
Also joining virtually is Rajesh Kumar, who is a tech B2B marketing evangelist and has been leading marketing at organizations like UiPath, SAP, Microsoft. He was the ET Tech CMO in 2021. And here with me is Anup Manohar, the Chief Marketing Officer at Axis Bank. He too has over 2 decades of experience, having worked for big brands like Coca-Cola, Hindustan Lever and PepsiCo. In his own words, he is gifted in being able to hear verbal and non-verbal cues and believes in action and not analysis. He likes to win. And with that, let us get going on how to win the minds of our customers with focus on content creation. Thanks Sandipan, Rajesh and Anup for joining me here today. So Sandipan, with content creation and content consumption having reached a totally different level now, I mean frankly anybody can create content. So how, I'm sure brands are finding it very challenging now to differentiate themselves. So how are you measuring the creativity level of content?
People normally say that a piece of content is an interaction between a brand and its consumers, right? I would say in the current landscape, any piece of content that a brand puts out is actually it's a transaction. And why do I call content viewing as a transaction? Is because if we flip the conventional logic of return on investment, right? I mean, brands for ages have been conditioned to believe that we have to look at return on investment when it comes to our content and our creatives that go out to consumers. I think in today's scenario, we have to get in a new terminology, which is ROA. And what I mean by ROA is return on attention. In plain simple terms, it's an inversion of the whole logic, right? Return on investment is from the manufacturer or the brand's point of view. Return on attention is from the consumer lens. When I'm host to so many options, there's an overflow of content around the world. What's happening is I have only so much attention to give, right? And I will give my attention to brands that give me the best return on attention, right? So if we try and look at creativity and content in today's scenario with this lens of return on attention, it sort of changes our priorities. That's what I feel. People are looking for gratification, and brands need to be hugely aware that they are, and conscious that they're delivering the gratification in a consistent manner whenever they're putting out content. And the brands which give maximum return on attention to consumers will be the brands that win the most, in the social media landscape. Yeah. um, there was this law. I mean, it's called a law by a gentleman called Theodore Sturgeon, which is called Sturgeon's law. It's not much of a law, but what it says is 90% of everything is crap, right? 90% of everything is crap. And while Theodore Sturgeon said it many, many, many decades ago, I think it's really, really relevant, even more relevant today, when we are looking at just 10% of content connecting with consumers, delivering the results we want, because, in my opinion, I think they are keeping this whole principle of return on attention foremost in their minds.
Rajesh, how do you evaluate the quality of content, the creativity level of content?
It's a difficult question. I don't think there is one single silver bullet to do so. I mean, of course, there are lots of quantitative ways to measure the impact. And nowadays there are lots of data insights more than ever before to guide the direction of your content. But the heart of it, I think it is a black box, because there is where the nuances of human understanding and many years of learned experience in some cases, or intuition of the content creator differentiates. I mean, it is information, it is storytelling, it is visual expression, it is audio, it's textual, but combination is what makes the magic. It's not necessarily predictable. Many attempts, including OTT channels and so on, to drive things with data, but have they managed to beat the classical storytelling, say, of Bollywood or Hollywood? Maybe in some cases. I don't think the recipe is available yet.
Yeah. And Anup, for that 10% of content, what are you focusing on?
First of all, thank you for having me. And it's nice to have you here, Sandeepan. Puts no pressure on us, right, for this piece of content as well, this Sturgeon's law. But I was just saying that I totally agree with what Sandeepan is saying. There is so much content out there. So from our point of view, what we try and do is, I think the good measure of whether the consumer is interested in what you're putting out is whether they're having a conversation back with you, right? So what we try and measure is what's the quality of conversation we have when we put out a piece of content. Are consumers even interacting? Are they liking it? Are they sharing it? Are they commenting? That gives you a sense of what kind of, so it's, the feedback is almost immediate as to what, when you talk about return on attention. The other thing that we recognize is that brand voices are not as powerful as they used to be, and therefore 50% of the content is stuff that we create with our agencies, but we want to get to a point where the remaining 50% is either curated by us or actually generated by somebody else, an influencer, somebody that the consumer believes in and takes their point of view, and not because they don't take brands at face value that much anymore.
Very true, very true. Anything you want to add on measuring success of campaigns?
WhatsApp forwards have fast become the final arbiter of what is successful and what is more engaging in today's day and age, right? I mean, it's proof. It's proof that people are engaging and they're taking the trouble to send it to the people they know.
The role of data, and where do you see, creative content and dependency on data?
Yeah, I think, data is a huge part of the creative process. There's no denying it, right? But speaking purely from a perspective of creation and a perspective of brand creativity, I think we need to look at data in a way that we can glean some new learnings and insights from it. Data, if it just pushes back into our comfort zone or just reassures us, then I don't know if data is doing its job right. For creativity, I think it's really important to understand that data has to push us in new directions. Do we see it? Yes, we do. Can we see more of it? We can see lots more of it. And that's what I always tell data partners and data mining partners. That guys, I mean, the purpose, if data is to dovetail into creativity, let's try and push ourselves to pull out facts, insights, and data that herd us into new unexplored territories, and that's when I feel we can get the true value of data. Yeah.
But what about gut feel?
Gut feel is never ever going to be separated from the creative process, right? I mean, I say this often, Einstein made the theory of relativity viral, even though 99% of people who talk about Einstein don't know about relativity, right? How did he make it viral in the 1930s, in the 1940s? How did he do that? People try and push a concept out because they have a gut feel that somebody is going to latch on. It sounds new. It sounds unlike what they have ever heard before, right? So therefore, people who had no concept of relativity or quantum physics or anything about physics for that matter, still love to latch on to that concept that here's a new thing I must talk about. I must be in the know of. So gut and understanding things from reacting to things rather, not understanding at a very visceral level, I think is intrinsic to creativity. It can never be separated.
Right. And how are you using data?
So I think data is around a lot nowadays, right? The important thing, like I think what Sandeepan is mentioning, is that you should not use data for data's sake. My views, both with gut feel and with data, you should use it to question your existing mental models. I'll give you an example. So as a bank, we give out home loans, right? And for anybody who's taken a home loan, you know that there's an intense period of activity, maybe a couple of months, month and a half when you get your loan. And then there's an intense period of activity when you want to, shut down your loan. But in between that, nobody is talking to the consumer, right? As a consumer, you don't want to do anything with the bank. As long as your EMIs are going out, nobody talks to you. The bank doesn't talk to you, you don't talk to the bank. Now, that's the existing model of how this operates, right? But think about the fact that you actually have data about this consumer, whether he's paying his EMI, whether he's actually foreclosing a bit of his loan a bit earlier. All of those are data points. And ideally, that should inform your communication with that consumer, because otherwise you end up just having a transaction as a brand with him,
Right.
and it's not a relationship. So how can you use the data that you have on a monthly basis with this person to actually have a conversation with him saying, hey, you took this loan 5 years back, the value of your property has gone up by 50%.
Basically telling them even things they didn't know.
Yeah, or things they know, but the fact that
They didn't
they might not
realize.
have the attention for,
Yeah,
right?
they didn't realize.
And the fact is, once you do that, it is gratification of some
Yeah.
sort, right? Even if they knew it, here's a bank validating that
Validating.
my property has gone up
Yeah.
50%. I'm not saying we will do this.
Then they want
but
to know more.
Yeah, so this is a different mental model of the same thing, but it's because you have data,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The data can be there, we might not use it.
Yeah.
So I therefore think that both, and if you didn't have the guts, then you would not be able to frame the communication properly, right? Because you might still mess it up. So I think it's all important, but it's important how you use it. And I think, especially with data, the thing is, how do you question what you do today so that you make it better?
Yeah, yeah. Well, with that, I guess we come to the end. Thank you very much for this lovely conversation and for taking up the time. My key takeaway from this very interesting discussion with Sandeepan, Rajesh and Anup is that communicators should think about the return on attention, something that Sandeepan elaborated on in detail. What is the customer getting for their attention? And I know, no doubt, it is an uphill task for the comms fraternity to make content that resonates. Maybe it's time to take storytelling notches up by integrating and involving the customer in that story. And with that, I wish you all the very best. Go get the emotions rolling.